You want to listen to a podcast?
By who?
Georgia GOP Congressman Doug Collins.
How is it?
The greatest thing I have ever heard in my whole life.
I could not believe my ears.
In this house, wherever the rules are disregarded, chaos and mob rule. It has been said today, where is bravery? I'll tell you where bravery is found and courage is found. It's found in this minority who has lived through the last year of nothing but rules being broken, people being put down, questions not being answered. And this majority say, be damned with anything else. We're going to impeach and do whatever we want to do. Why? Because we won an election. I guarantee you, one day you'll be back in the minority and it ain't going to be that fun. Welcome back to the podcast. It's Friday's Finest. Yes, today is the day. James and I bring you all the news, maybe fit not to be heard, or maybe something better to be heard, or something maybe you just didn't think about and you just say, wow, I hadn't thought about that. But now you're going to, because we're back here on Friday's Finest. Before we get there, though, again, lots going on. Congress and in many ways, I guess you could say the Republic is safe for the next 6 weeks because Senate and House are both now out. They passed the NDAA in the Senate last night, National Defense Authorization Act, which matches up to nothing like the House version of the National Defense Authorization Act. So we're looking for an interesting time trying to reconcile those two bills in the fall. The House passed one of the appropriations bill that they intended to pass this week on military and MILCON. This is a construction for military. Could not get agreement out of 218 members of the House Republicans to pass the Ag appropriations bill. So they pulled it, and it's going to have to come up in one of their 12 work days in September, which really, if you understand the congressional schedule, 12 work days is actually about 7 work days because you have the fly-in days and you have the fly-out days, but mainly the fly-in days, which really no voting except for small items get done. So, again, they're either going to have to do a lot more or we're looking at a CR or shutdown or worse coming this fall. We'll, of course, keep you on the discussion point here on the Doug Collins podcast. We'll keep you updated on all that as we go along. Presidential campaigns. I mean, Donald Trump is indictments added to his count out of Florida, looking for new indictments at any moment as we are taping today, any moment out of Washington, D.C., possible more indictments on Donald Trump. We find out that the Hunter Biden deal blew up. Thank goodness it blew up. Finally, they may actually investigate what Hunter Biden actually did. And how much money he had, and was he working as a foreign agent, and a lot of things. The deal that was going through was actually worse than reported. It was basically giving him blanket immunity even for things going forward in this, even though they said they were actually investigating it. And this blew up this week in the Delaware courtroom, and now it's just he pled not guilty, and the case is still out there. The Biden family has to just be frustrated with this. They have to talk about it all the time, and it just gets worse and worse. The president, again, still finding his way lost on stage and having issues. But then again, you have, Mitch McConnell and freezing up in an interview, just going completely silent for a minute. This was after he was out earlier this year for falling and breaking some ribs and having a concussion. Come to find out, he fell just recently at the airport. And then you had Dianne Feinstein. I really, really, folks, and I mean this with sincerity, I disagree with most of Dianne Feinstein's policies, but she was a fighter for California. She fought for her liberal beliefs. I fought against her in her liberal beliefs, but Dianne Feinstein deserves better than what she's getting right now. And I blame her staff and her family. Her staff and her family need to stop this. She was at an appropriations hearing the other day. The clerk on a vote called her name. Instead of just saying aye to vote yes, she thinks that it's her time to read a statement. As she begins to read the statement, the staff has to come up and says, just say aye. Folks, this is a problem, okay? And it's not a term limit problem. It's not an age problem. But there's also a time when you got to know when to fold them. You got to know when to get out. And right now, I think Dianne Feinstein is beyond the possibility of her deciding for herself that it's time to go. And so it is time for her staff, and it's time for her who care for her. And I truly believe they do. But they're putting politics ahead of this, who is really an icon in the Senate, and especially for females who went to the Senate. I mean, she again, I disagreed with all these policies, but again, that's the divided governments. California was able to elect whoever they wanted to elect, and they elected her. But her family, to let her go through this, and this is just embarrassing. And it's not good for her. It's not good for this country. And it's shameful. And I'm sorry. I mean, people may get mad at me, and her staff may be mad at me. I don't care. I've watched it happen in the House. I've watched members when I served that were there too long. Not that they were not good people, not that they didn't want to be there, but they were there too long. They were having too many health issues. They were having too many problems getting around. They were not productive in their discussions. They were able to show up for a vote and maybe tell some old stories, but that was about it. This is getting bad, and especially the Feinstein one. We've seen the stuff with McConnell. We've seen the stuff with Biden. Again, I can't emphasize this enough, and I'm emphasizing it probably a little more than I really want to here on a Friday, but it's heartbreaking to me to see somebody who put all of her life, as much as she did, for work in California and political life and being out there out front, for the longest period of time, to have the staff and her family let her continue to go out there and basically be embarrassed. It's heart-wrenching. It is heartbreaking. And I put the blame squarely at the feet of her staff and her family. And if they don't do anything about it, it's just shame on them. So shame on them as we go forward. A lot, still going on, and we'll get off to these all. Looking ahead to next week, we got the Bone Hunter, collector himself, Michael Waddell, in the house. Looking forward to having him on with us. And just some other good stuff. We got football coming up in a week. Got everything else. But right after the break, it is Friday's Finest with James and myself.
Hey, everybody, you know about Legacy Precious Metals. Legacy Precious Metals, you hear from them. We talk once a month. We talk about Legacy Precious Metals, talking about precious metals being part of your portfolio, how they're your navigator. Well, now they're not only navigating in a new way, they're actually giving you a new way to buy gold and silver. In fact, Legacy Precious Metals has developed a revolutionary new online platform that allows you to invest in real gold and silver online. In a few easy steps, you can open an account online, select your metals of choice, and choose to have them stored in a vault or shipped to your door. I'm more of a ship to my door kind of person. I enjoy having them with me, but they can do it either way, and you can now do it online. It gives you real access to a dashboard where you can track your portfolio growth in real time, anytime. You'll see transparent pricing on each coin and bar. This puts you in complete control of your money. This platform is free to sign up for. Just visit legacypminvestments.com and open your account and see this new investing platform for yourself. Gold hedges against inflation and is against a volatile stock market. A true diversified portfolio isn't just more stocks and bonds, but a different asset class. This platform allows you to make investments in gold and silver, no matter how small or large, with just a few clicks. Remember, do as I have done. Go to legacypminvestments.com and get started today. And now you've got a new tool to help you along in your investments. Hey folks, MyPillow is excited to bring to you their biggest bedding sale ever. For a limited time, you're going to get the Giza Dream bed sheets for as low as $29.98, a set of pillowcases for only $9.98, and rejuvenate your bed with a MyPillow mattress topper for as low as $99.99. $99.99. Get a mattress pillow topper. Look, they come in all sizes. They got all kinds of stuff, blankets. They've got duvets. They got quilts. They got comforters. They got body pillows. They got bolster pillows. They got all that big discounts. And also, they're extending their money-back guarantee for Christmas until March 1, 2023, making them the perfect gift for your friends, your family, and for everyone you know. Folks, and just from a personal note here, I have the Giza Dream Sheets. They're on my bed right now. I slept on them last night. Some of the best sheets that we and Lisa and I have ever owned. They are worth, at this price, they're a steal. My wife and I have bought bed sheets, linens at much higher cost. It's supposedly much higher quality. These from MyPillow are at the highest of quality, and at a price like this, you can't beat it. So go now to mypillow.com, use promo code Collins, COLLINS, or call 1-800-986-3994, and you'll get huge discounts on all the MyPillow bedding products, including the Giza Dream bed sheets for as low as $29.98, and get all your shopping done while qualities last. And remember, put in that promo code Collins for these discounts. All right, James, we're back. Friday's Finest. It's time to get at it. Lots of stories everywhere over the globe. And for anybody who's wondering, James, is Texas going to, again, you're our Texan by way of New Jersey. So, how is Texas going?
Texas is a beautiful place, Doug. It's filled with disgustingly boring landscapes and people who... the people are great here. That's all I'm going to say. Can I just say this real quick? I don't want this to come off in a rude way. But you brought up Dianne Feinstein in your opening. And she's in a position where she shouldn't be doing what she's doing. Because like you said, it has nothing to do with her politics. she's at a point where she's not functioning correctly
Right.
in the setting she's in. That is a much bigger deal than what I'm about to say. But some of these CVS employees that are older and or just losing most of their facilities cannot have 12 people on a line and no one does anything about it. Doug, I was at CVS for 45 minutes yesterday with a 4-person line. 4 people. This woman, I felt so bad for her, but I also wanted to jump behind the counter and do her job for her. I know this is a stupid rant and it's silly. And I know we all hate CVS because they give you 85-foot paper roll to tell you that you bought paper towels. But this woman did one grocery item at a time on that counter like she was examining an artifact from Raiders of the Lost Ark. It took her 10 minutes. I counted because I was losing my mind. It took her 10 minutes to do like 8 items. And I just think that we need to this is an all-around problem. It's not just Dianne Feinstein. This is an American problem. We need to get together. If you cannot do the job, we cannot pay you. I'm sorry. That's horrible. I know that she probably needs that job, but oh my God. You can't spend that long time just trying to get hot Cheetos for your brother's girlfriend. That's just not how life works.
Yeah, well, it's a problem too. It's developing too, and it's something we really need to address. And it's a lot of our seniors coming. They're living longer. I mean, these are not.
Yeah.
Some of them are boomers. There's a lot of boomers now. They come in, but they didn't have the retirements. They didn't. What retirement they did have didn't last maybe, and so you're now
right.
So many of these folks go back into the workplace, and you're right. I mean, if they can do the job, great. But if they can't, and I saw something the other day that, again, I come from a different, I guess, old school train of thought. And it was this, older gentleman who was out pushing buggies, into a grocery store. And look, I admire his work ethic. I admire the fact he's out there. But it just like, if we've got 70-plus-year-old folks out there struggling to get buggies in, where are the 16-year-olds? Where are the 17-year-olds? I mean, are they just hopped up in the couch at mom's place, playing video games? I mean,
Doug, I have that same question. I have seen less and less kids working. I don't know about you, and I'm not trying to act like I'm from a tough generation. I'm not.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm a millennial, but I did have the distinct advantage of being one of those outside indoor kids.
Yeah.
The both. I got the best of both worlds.
Mm-hmm.
I also knew that when I was 13, that if I wanted the new iPod, I had to pay for it because my mom was like, "I'm not buying that for you right now.
Right.
You can have it if you want it. I'll get it for you for Christmas, but if you want it now, you got to work."
Yeah.
So I got a job when I was 13, and I've had a job since I'm 13. It's crazy that I'm still broke.
Yeah.
But when you think about it, I worked, my friends worked, everybody worked, so we could all go do stuff.
Right.
Now, I know that there were kids in the rich part of the town that didn't work. I get that, whatever. But it's not like I was like dead broke, but like, if I wanted something, mom was like, "Oh, get a job." So she made me earn it. It had nothing to do with the money. She would have paid for an iPhone. She would have paid for an iPhone. She just wanted me to earn it.
Right.
And like, I don't know if that exists. And now you got some 75-year-old, like you just said, pushing carts. That was one of my first jobs, was pushing carts. That's a tough job when you're a kid. I can't imagine how that is as an 80-year-old person.
My first job was with Big Star Foods, which is a grocery store. It was a grocery store down here in part of the Grand Union, if you were up in New Jersey area. But it was Big Star, and I worked for 5 years. I worked from my junior year in high school to my senior year in college. Worked as much as, especially during the summer, more than 40 hours a week, even during the school year, even when I was going to school, would work a lot of hours. And I did everything from pushing buggies in to ringing up groceries to working produce, seafood and everything else. But again, it goes back to an interesting part of our society today that, this is where, James, and probably the most of our most serious will probably be on Friday's Finest for a long time, this is really where people see the economy. This is the disconnect in the economy. I think that people are saying, the economy's better. Well, but there's certain segments that you're not seeing that. And you're not seeing it in seniors, many of which, again, how do you deal with seniors who've basically undoubtedly, for many times, some of them just want to get out and work. Now for those, God bless you. I'm glad
Yes.
you get out there.
Yeah, I
You
get that.
go do it. But for many, the unfortunate part is, and as Republicans, maybe we don't want to admit this. Democrats maybe want to overemphasize it too much. But I mean, in the middle, there is a large percentage of those folks who are doing it because they have to, and
Yes, for
they
sure.
have to because they can't afford to live on their own, and with the cost of everything and everything going up. And and look, every time I look around and I see that, it makes my wife and I go say, okay, put another $5 in the savings account. I mean, it's
Talk about it.
so it really matters. But it's interesting to that this is going on. But we see this, Feinstein to me though, and as I said in the opening, this is I firmly blame her staff, and I firmly blame her
Yes.
family, because I mean,
Because she's obviously not
no,
making the
she's not making decisions.
decisions.
I mean,
There's no way, because she can't even make the decision to just say
right?
I.
I mean,
Like that's
it
horrible.
is.
That can't, you know.
Well, and they're covering for her a lot too. You don't see the pictures. I mean, but the picture that you do come out, she's in a wheel. She's there. She's having to go in a wheelchair, and then when she's by herself, I mean, I've seen this in nursing homes. Okay, and I'm just gonna be blunt here. I mean, I've seen those who are just at a point where they're not able to function for themselves as well as they should be able to,
Yeah.
and she just sits there with sort of that blank stare, and
Yeah.
it's like I said, I'm gonna get off of this because otherwise I'm just gonna get mad. And but
Yeah.
it's just frustrating to see. But this is where we got. I mean, think about this. We just ended DC, James, and we wonder why young people are turned off from voting. We wonder why people are up. We did the episode the other day. I
Yeah.
talked about the Biden economy, and why the White House seems so disconnected. Well, this is why. I mean, you go into communities,
Right.
they can't find workers. They're having, I mean, their older folks are having to go back to work. Many of them because they have to. Inflation is still high. You now have interest rates, and again, we've talked about this on the show before. Interest rates are keeping people in houses so that we have a housing shortage. So that young people like my boys who are in their mid-20s or late 20s, can't find a house that's affordable, even on making
No.
decent money. And
Right.
again, the same house. It's amazing. The same house, basically same price from last year to this year will cost you almost $500 to $600 more a month.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just stunning to see this, and to see people in Washington D.C. And I've been there, I've been part of it. Look, I get it. I'm not saying I'm reformed or anything else, but I just see it,
Sure.
from both sides so clearly. Now, the inner circle of D.C. is a self-fulfilling spinning wheel. It's a wheel within a wheel. It only operates in its own little world inside the Beltway in Washington, D.C., and it's very much disconnected. And that's why you have Republicans and Democrats who are so frustrated with the system. And again, this is not just Republicans, plenty of Republicans being mad, but there's plenty of Democrats out there that are mad too. And it's because of a system that just isn't, being honest with itself.
It's an American problem, not
It is.
a divided
It is.
country
I
problem.
agree with you completely.
Yeah.
All right, moving on though. Speaking of Washington,
Yeah, let's have some
speaking of Washington D.C. though, and I think we've had her actually on the podcast, Representative Nancy Mace, from South Carolina. Nancy Mace is an outspoken representative, to say the least. She has come from a very interesting background. I respect Nancy Mace. I disagree with her, like everybody else. I disagree with some of her stuff, but she was one of the first women in the Citadel. That broke the gender barrier at the Citadel in South Carolina military school.
Sure.
She worked at a Waffle House. I mean, she has an interesting life story. The thing that I like most about Nancy Mace is if she believes it, she'll say it, and if she's going to say it, she doesn't care who hears. And last day of session this week up in D.C., Tim Scott has a prayer breakfast. And it's for the South Carolina delegation. They invite members of clergy and everybody up to this prayer breakfast. Tim's been doing it for a while. And Nancy Mace, of course, being one of the representatives from South Carolina, was there, and she was going to speak, as all the others do. And let's just say that when she got there, she delivered a short intro that most didn't expect. Take a listen to this. Okay, James. you know, can you think about her fiance here for a second?
Listen, you know all his boys are gonna dog him when he gets back to that when they see him in a couple days.
Oh my God!
Every one of his guys will be like, "Your wife said what?
Yeah, she's
You couldn't get her back in bed, bud?" No, I'm just kidding.
and then well, if you listen to the whole clip there, she said, "Hey, I'm gonna be back home tonight." It's like,
You know what it is? If it's at any other function, it's fine. But to say it at a prayer breakfast is so funny. Like not knowing your audience.
yeah, but it's Nancy. But it's Nancy. Okay, it is Nancy Mace, and it's just fit her character, and I don't mean that in a bad way. It fit who she is. It's just her. And later on, she was asked about it, and I think she even put this maybe out on social media. She said, and this is, it was very interesting. Very, again, I can have my disagreements. Should she have said it? No. But, probably not. But, she said later, because she was getting a lot of grief from those on the right, and, understandably so. But she made a comment. She said, I don't go to church because I'm a saint. I go because I'm not.
Oh, that's a good line. That's a very
and
good
it's
line.
a perfect line, that I'm a sinner.
I like
and,
that.
And I think that's
funny.
That's
like
very
that.
true.
Yeah. I mean, listen,
and it is.
Listen, are we really worried about this? Is just hilarious. If you're actually upset about it, like go, relax.
Oh, and for all of you getting your knickers in a bunch over this, give me a break.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Come on.
She sounds like she's in a happy marriage, for God's sakes.
Well, she ain't married. Well, she's not married. It's her fiance.
Oh,
but she's getting married. But again, and I know I'll get some comments probably from our Rumble or some of our folks saying, Doug, you're a pastor. You're supposed to condemn it. Look, she seems to know that it's probably not right. Okay. She says she's going to have a talk with her pastor. I mean, but at a certain point in time, folks, it is what it is.
Yeah.
And, I'm here's my little 2-second rant. You had your CVS rant. I'll have my rant. When the church, and hear me clearly, you can, and one of the Duck Dynasty guys, Phil, I think the dad said this one time. He said, I don't have to, and he was talking about this in general. He said, we got to understand that, I can dislike something that you are doing and still be kind, and I don't have to, and I can love someone that is doing bad things, but it doesn't mean that I'm compromising who I am, but it is showing compassion and love at the same time. Now, look, you don't go out, there's this passage in scripture, it says, should I just go out and sin because I have grace? And Paul says, of course not. But the issue here is being honest. And look, you caught her at an interesting moment. She was probably flustered. She got there late. She's, like, hey, this is why, again, my question is, do you take comments like hers? And I've heard some of the comments back saying, well, I thought, I love this one. I thought she was a Christian, kind of thing.
Oh my, get over yourself.
Folks, understand something. All right. Christians who've accepted it, I'm from the faith perspective and a scripture as from mine, someone who's accepted Jesus Christ, their personal Savior, who've given their life, they're following Christ. That is the calling. That is the standard. It's not, did you make the right statement? Did you do the checklist? Did you go give $10 to the Salvation Army? No, it is, do you have a personal relationship with Jesus Christ? If you have a personal relationship with Jesus Christ, as described in Scripture, right, recognizing the one and only way to God is through Jesus Christ, that is your path to eternal life. That's your path to being a Christian, a Christ follower, someone who follows him. Now, nowhere in that does it say that now I'm a Christian, I don't sin. In fact, the scripture is very clear. It says that later on, it says, when you sin, not if you sin, but when you sin, you can get forgiveness, and he is faithful and just to forgive us and remove or cleanse us from all unrighteousness. Okay, that's a big passage there. So again, for all of you who are hyperventilating over Nancy Mace saying that she missed a intimate time with her fiance, I can get into the premarital sex part. I can get into whatever you want to go here. But again, the question is, should we point out condemning is the bad part here. Saying, hey, this may not be the most appropriate place for this, which I think most would agree.
Yeah.
But you're also dealing with the real world. When the church deals with the real people in the world, and we deal with them as they are, not what we want them to be, then we're actually, I believe, being Christ-like. And now that doesn't mean that we let them stay, and it doesn't mean that we condone the sin that we see. But it says, look, I love you. You can be better. You were meant for more. Okay, that again, that's just all I gotta say. But again, I saw that yesterday morning, and I said, "Oh my!" And it was just, and I just laughed.
Only because it's so funny. Yeah, it's funny because the moment was very funny. But the idea that some guy is just going to get on and be like, "I thought you was a Christian," blah 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 blah. First of all, anyone who listens to this, that's coming straight from a preacher's mouth. Okay, guys, Doug's telling you what it is.
Yeah,
Also,
and I know I'll be condemned for it. So go right ahead.
Yeah, you will. That's right. But no, it always makes me laugh because like that comment means nothing. It is what it is. She was making a joke in jest. Yes, she said it at a prayer breakfast. That to me is still the funniest part. But
yeah, I mean, it's like
right.
timing.
Timing is everything, right?
Know your audience and find your timing.
Yeah, but anyway, all right. Let's keep moving.
All right, this week. I have an animal report. Wild Kingdom. A 19-foot python was captured outside of Naples, Florida.
Nope. Getting out of there.
19 feet.
That's his part of the state now.
Yeah, hat tip to my son Copeland on that one. 19 feet.
Could you imagine? I mean, I saw a lizard the other day that was a foot long, and I was like, I'm going to have to move. A 19-foot snake, and you said it's a python?
Yep.
Yeah. No, that's wherever they found him, leave him there. Probably shoot him. Whatever you got to do.
The python is because it's outside the Everglades down in there, and I mean they have a real problem. As we've talked about here on Friday's Finest before, they have a real problem.
I made an entire show about it. So
and also let me give one more hat tip to our intrepid reporters out there of the Doug Collins podcast, mainly my two sons, who send me all kinds of crazy crap. The deputy county manager in Collier County, Florida, was caught living a dual life. He was a deputy county manager, and at the same time had 22 lobbying clients.
Oh, you think that benefited him?
Again, that's one of those that I just sort of leave out there and say, do with this what you will. But folks, let me just say
Florida.
It's about like timing of remarks. Sometimes you might want to be cognizant of what you're doing. I just
Florida is the state that just keeps giving. I mean,
it is. Really.
Yeah, I know people make the Florida man joke, and that's all well and good, but it's so much more than that. It's it's sort of. I don't want to call it America's playground totally, but because that's more Vegas. But like, it is a place where just everybody shows up and everything gets weird. I mean, you never know what's going to happen to you down there. I mean, you live there part time sometimes, so like
Yeah, I mean, and the thing I've been going there for, but for those of us who are, like from, the around Florida, Georgia, I mean, I've been going to Florida because, getting here since I was in diapers. Okay, literally, I was, 3 and 4 years old since the 60s. To see the transformation of Florida over the last 25 to 30 years and I know some natives down there. It's harder and harder to find a native, by the way.
Sure.
In Florida, but it's two different states. And maybe probably almost 3, and I'm not trying to speak as a Floridian or anything else, but you get outside of Orlando and that the strip there with the international parks and music and stuff with the Walt Disney World and everything else, and then you get into the beach atmosphere of Miami, South Beach, and the Daytona Beach side, a little bit of then you get the Destin Beach with the Redneck Riviera up on the Gulf. And but then there's a whole nother part of Florida that is dying away. And if you listen to some, and I've had a chance to talk to some original Floridians that say, and it's sort of the middle of those, above and below Orlando, and in between the coast. And it's very agricultural. It's very rural. There's some old stuff. If you ever want to see something interesting, go look up, like old photos of Florida, Florida of old when it was Highway 1A, before the highway system was in. And
and so it all comes together into this really interesting mix. I was just in Orlando. I had to go to a conference this week, as a matter of fact, and Orlando is just so different than the surrounding areas. I mean, you go 30 miles outside of to the southeast or southwest, or even to the north, where it used to be orange groves everywhere coming into to their Orange County. I mean, it's just not there anymore. And so, but you get into the Greg Stubbe, who's been a guest on the podcast before. Greg, represents a very agricultural rural district in Florida. So yeah, Florida's just an interesting place. But I mean, if you're going to be a county manager, here's a pro tip for you: if you're going to work for the government, you probably shouldn't be representing lobbying clients that may or actually have business before your own government.
I like the audacity of it, though.
Yeah,
right?
you gotta give it up right there for just the
for
part.
sure. For sure.
We got to get into this though, James. We always try to highlight this. We've had some deaths.
Yes.
This past week or so we haven't touched on. One that touched me a great deal was Tony Bennett. And I think you got a story about your mom. I tell you what, why don't you tell your Tony Bennett story, because I want to emphasize Tony Bennett. Tony Bennett actually was as beloved later in life as he was younger in life, and there was a reason for that. But and I'm going to talk about that in a minute. But go ahead, tell your story.
So it is short. I just figured it reminded me of it. So we lived in New Jersey our whole life, so we were in and out of the city all the time. And my mom is with her two sisters. She's walking through Central Park, and she sees a man sitting alone at a bench in Central Park. An older man all alone. She looks and she goes, "That's Tony Bennett." And my mom is one of those people like she loves it. She loves him, like adores his music. And she's like, "I have to go over and say something." So she walks up to him and she goes, "Is there any way? Hi, I think you're Mr. Tony Bennett." He goes, "I am. Is there any way I can get an autograph?" And he looks up at her and he goes, "If I give you an autograph, I'm going to have to give every single one of these other schmucks an autograph." And she goes, "Oh, okay." And he goes, "So how about a wonderful handshake and have a beautiful day?" And my mom like took off and she was like partially crushed, but also totally understood. Like if she starts getting an autograph in the middle of Central Park from Tony Bennett, who's feeding birds, like he just wanted to feel like an old man on a sideline on a park bench in Central Park. And like he had to reject. I just thought it was so funny. My mom's like, she'd never get over it.
Yeah. Oh, it is amazing. Well, the interesting part about that story is, and it sort of fits to the story. A number of years ago, it's been about 10 or 15 years ago. Tony Bennett was on MTV a good bit. Okay. And he would go on and he'd perform with folks like Lady Gaga, Madonna,
different a whole album with Lady Gaga.
Yeah, and it was interesting enough. But they did a survey, and it was a survey, and it's been a long time ago now, so I couldn't pull it back up. But it was a survey among young people on who they admired, or and Tony Bennett was one of those entertainers. I mean, that you wouldn't have really expected, because this was like young people. And after they saw the poll, they went back and they said, "Why do you admire Tony Bennett?" And these young people said, "Because he doesn't try to be one of us."
Yes.
They said he was real.
Yeah, he didn't try to be hip or cool. He was just a dude from the 50s and 60s living,
Yeah, he wear his tuxedo. He sang the songs. He sang covers. He sang with the modern entertainers. They would sing
right.
He was just himself.
But he didn't make it weird.
Yeah. And so, the great lesson from that is I've always talked about it, is just be yourself. People want to see you. They may or may not like you as who you are, but they want to see you. And so the loss of Tony Bennett was a legend, in many ways. It goes back to the whole Rat Pack thing. I mean, you can talk about the mobsters and the mafia and everything, but Frank Sinatra, was one who helped desegregate Las Vegas.
Listen, you say whatever you want about those guys.
Yeah,
they were everything to America for a 5, 6, 7 year period.
Oh yeah. I mean,
everything.
The 60s, 50s, 60s, into the 70s. I mean, the Dean Martins, the Frank Sinatras.
Think about the careers it opened up.
Oh my God!
With all the roasts you got. I know we're not Don Rickles and that get like.
Oh yeah.
Like that Don Rickles story where I don't know if you guys you watch I mean, I'm sure you watched Carson, but my parents showed me some of the clips. and like there's Don Rickles who's with like friends with Frank Sinatra. Those two should not be friends. They just shouldn't be. They don't belong on the same. But like there he is, like Don Rickles, this great, wonderful person who just tears you apart. He would
Yeah.
never survive today. Um,
No, no.
but but like there's his career explodes. You got the whole Rat Pack itself. Like I don't know. I love that era of America and
Yeah,
just
and
the
look, before
music
any of
itself.
you out there, oh my God, there were the mobsters and everything else. Okay, fine. Okay.
The Mafia rocks. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, give me a break. Okay. At this point in time, fine. I get it. Okay. I'm not condoning every essence of their life, but it was just a different, again, especially when you look at Sinatra, which has been sort of documented about, him desegregating. He wouldn't go to places that, wouldn't allow his band to play. And Sammy Davis Jr. is saying, so it was, there's some good things about it. Again,
what do you think your musicians are up to today? Do you think they're all just playing like hopscotch before shows?
No,
Come on.
no, not really. But it's just that sort of class, Said,
Yeah.
And again, I'm not too afraid of it. I look back on that. You got the tugs, you got the, you got the slow song, you got the, you look back on different eras. You said a minute ago, couldn't happen today. We have,
No.
It's just amazing what happens. But you just sort of see them up there and going. But Tony Bennett's gone. But we also lost Sinead O'Connor. A little bit more of the, which was an interesting thing. Haunting voice.
Yeah.
If you ever listen to her, got in a lot of trouble for tearing up a picture of the Pope on Saturday Night Live. Sort of deflated her career after the song "Nothing Compares to You."
Still love the rebel idea though.
Yeah, just rebel. She shaved her
I
head.
just love anyone who's against anything.
Yeah. Well, then she became some kind of like a priestess or something. It was a
wouldn't be surprised.
Interesting life, but she passed away early in her 50s. She was younger than I was actually.
She was young.
But we got that, and then there was one more one.
Randy Meisner.
Randy
of
Meisner.
the Eagles.
The Eagles. Oh my! The epitome of what we call, I guess, what Sirius XM would call yacht rock.
They've done everything though too. That's the Eagles have been part. They are classic rock. They're yacht rock. They're country. That band, what they did to the stranglehold they have on my parents alone is, I don't know. My parents are 60 and 65. They have the craziest love for the Eagles. They've seen them 100 times. It is disgusting how much Eagles I've heard in my life.
You got it growing up. The late 70s and early 80s. It was just, Hotel California. The Long Run. It's just amazing the number of songs that just go back to. Speaking of which, since we don't really go on a set 1, 2, 3 path here. Speaking of that, the Randy Meisner, who passed away at 77, by the way. Again, I thought he would possibly get older, but he was 77 when he passed away. But I didn't realize that Luke Combs has had 16 number one hits, basically in a row.
In a row?
Yeah. Somebody. I was going to fact check this before. Luke Combs number ones, but yeah, somebody said that number was like 16. It's like 11, and this was.
Doug, did I lose you a little bit?
Are we here?
Yeah, I got you. It sounds like your microphone went off.
How about that? Is that better now?
There you go. Now you're back.
Yeah, no, I was trying to look up someone. Yeah, but he's had to, and Luke Combs, you talk about the atypical looking country music singer, but got great songs, great voice, and just did and here, okay, all right. I don't think we've touched on this. I'm glad see, there is a reason for us chasing rabbits. He just did the cover of Tracy Chapman's Fast Car. Ooh, in a fast car.
Yeah, absolutely.
I love that song. Great. That song takes me back to Lisa and I dating, and that was the late 80s. I remember that song being played, and I just remember it. haunting song, but a great song. He did a great cover of it. Went to #1 on the country music charts, and and just to skyrocket it up. And it even had some crossover appeal. And you know what? People had the audacity to write. They were saying that Tracy, this just shows the bigotry in the music industry because Tracy Chapman couldn't have got the song to go to #1 on country music. Well, no kidding. She's not a country music singer. And they tried to blame it for her sexual identification, her being African American, everything. It's like, folks, you need to wake up and get a life.
No one's going to remember Luke Combs for singing this song. Okay? We're all going to. You just said Tracy Chapman. Name something else Tracy Chapman sung. You can't because nobody cares because they remember Fast Car and that's it. By the way, speaking of Luke Combs, real quick, did you see what he did this weekend? The other day?
No.
He let a little kid. I don't know.
Oh yeah. He sung the kid who was a Make-A-Wish kid. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
He let him sing on stage his favorite song. Luke, I don't really care for country music that much. If I choose, it's Johnny Cash. That is so cool to me.
Luke's a stud. I mean,
he seems like such a great dude.
Oh yeah, I got a lot of good buddies in country music. Luke Bryan, Brantley Gilbert, know them all, the good folks. But Luke's grown on me. He really has, and I love him. So some of his early stuff, that was really good, and he's gotten better. He's just one of those artists that seem to have just grown, and almost like a Chris Stapleton and some of these other guys, but sure. just a good dude. But yeah, he does stuff like it all the time. He actually hunts too. There's a meat eater, Steve Rinella's TV show Meat Eater. You can find on Netflix. There's an episode where they go out hunting together.
If you're a country singer and you don't hunt, does everyone lose respect for you?
Well, I don't think. Well, it's for some maybe, but even country music's changed a lot now. I mean,
I bet it has. You know how I know that? Because everyone in New Jersey likes country music now. So that's how you know it's changed.
Well, but the thing about it is country music actually is, and again, we haven't even talked about I think we mentioned it last week, the Jason Aldean song that, everybody wanted to get all upset about. Don't do that in a small, you won't do that in a small town. I mean, it's just, that kind of stuff. And then you have the wonderfully naive people on The View, and I'm being kind today, say, well, my family grew up outside of Macon and Hogginsville, and Macon is just a racist city. Do you realize that Macon is majority African-American? Okay. I mean, I guess if you're from there, you should have known that, but okay. Does it have a racist history, from 50, 60, 70 years ago, and even probably there's some racist in shockingly in Macon, Georgia, just like they are in New York City? Yes. But those are the ill-informed, naive people in the world that need to get alive. The bigotry and racism is wrong. Okay. But I'm so sick of this. Corey, and we see it all the time. We even saw it on the floor of the House this week. The House representatives finishing up, and Corey Bush, representative out of Missouri, yells across the thing about the Republican appropriation bill that your bills are racist. I mean, folks, find a new tune. Left, find a new tune. Where racism is real, and we need to deal with it. We need to deal with how we deal with each other based on race and how we look at each other and everything else. That is, eradicate that out. But not everything that comes up is racist. But yet it just amazed me that the story was not Luke Combs, Country Music Center, takes a song called Fast, which, by the way, the little kid sang, that you just mentioned, sang and brought it back to life. Tracy Chapman's going to make money off of this, by the way.
Yes.
And, he put a great version of it together, brought it back to a whole new generation of people to hear what came out of her creativity so far long ago. And now the only thing you can gripe about is, well, it just shows the racism in country music because Tracy Chapman, who self-identifies as
non-binary
orientation is different, and she's African American. That means that she couldn't have ever got this song.
It's so ridiculous.
I'm tired. And it's just like, are you kidding me?
Yeah, it's like it's one thing. Like there's things that we can all tell are inherently racist. Like I think for the most part, I believe. Listen, I can't speak for everybody because I've met some pretty racist people in my lifetime, and it's pretty upsetting when you're around it. But I think we can all agree that like Just because think about how many great songs are done as covers. We can use Johnny Cash as an example.
Yeah.
Nine Inch Nails
Oh yeah.
wrote a song called "Hurt."
Yep.
Johnny Cash redid it, and the song "Hurt" by Nine Inch Nails nobody cared about. Nobody.
Yeah.
Johnny Cash does it, and it's one of his most popular songs towards the end of his life.
Oh yeah.
Nobody complained that Nine Inch Nails didn't get the credit they deserve because of what they were, because nobody cared. But this is just an excuse. Like, people need to say something, so they said something.
Oh,
Tracy
yeah.
Chapman is gonna. Yeah, you just said it's gonna make money. Like, it's great. Anyway, it doesn't matter. People are
Well, but
ridiculous.
anyway, this is all where we're at as we go along, and these folks, a lot of stuff going on. One thing though, before we get going here, James, though, we got to really talk about. Just remind people of we're 1 week away from football.
Woo! Don't get me excited.
1 week away. Okay, all right. Before we get going, I got to get your take on this stuff. Is Dalvin Cook going to end up with the Jets?
Oh God, I hope not.
I think he is.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a matter of, and we can get real technical sports here, but one, obviously they got to meet his price point, right? Which obviously we've talked about.
But guess who just dropped their salary, $73,000
I was just going to say a certain someone who I tend to disagree with in everything he's ever done in his entire lifetime, which includes throwing the football. Aaron Rodgers dropped his salary a bit, and somebody just went to New York named Dalvin Cook, going to meet with the Jets. I just think that means for everybody, for the Jets organization, that they're more worried about Breece Hall than we originally thought. That's what I think it means.
I think their ownership has finally said that if we can't get to at least late in the playoffs or the Super Bowl, we've got a problem in our fan base and everything else. And I think they're willing to buy
fan base. I mean, I'm a Vikings fan. I went through hell, but the Jets fan base has been through it.
Yeah. And if you ever watch, and I was traveling some this week, and I was flipping on, TVs at places, and Greeny on ESPN is just about, if they don't win, honestly, if they go,
he's going to you're gonna watch a man explode on television.
Yeah, if they go 8-8 this year or 8-9, whatever it is, he will die.
It would be very funny though.
Yeah, it will be hilarious, and Stephen A. Smith will have a ball with it. And
are you fully ready? And then if we gotta go, we gotta go. But are you fully prepared to sit through an entire Falcons season and a Raiders season where they're both going to be losers?
Yeah.
Your quarterback is Jimmy Garoppolo with the Raiders. You have two teams, and they're still going to stink.
Yeah, just think about it, though. I've done it for a long time, so you get a cut.
Yeah, and you do have Super Bowl rings, and then the one giant loss, but whatever, that's okay.
Yeah, but then you got well, the Raiders have the Super Bowl rings, Falcons have not. But then I've also got 2 national titles sitting 40 miles down the road at University.
It's kind of ridiculous that you get to have all these great teams, and I'm stuck with the Mets, Vikings, and the Nets. I'm honestly, the only college team that I had was when I was a little kid. I was a UConn fan, and that panned out for me. But it's honestly, Doug, I mean this so seriously. The football season's right around the corner, and I've never been more ready to.
It's going to be great.
Baseball
it's going to be great.
Sucks so much right now.
It's not happening, baseball. But also, before we get going, though, one throw in here on the late Friday finest edition. Colorado's back to the Big 12. The Pac-10 is on its way to looking like irrelevance. And
how did Colorado do that? Is it because they got a certain head coach?
12. Yeah, Big 12 already accepted them. They voted They voted this week Thursday, I think it was. They voted to Colorado's regent said, "Yep, we're gone," and they join in the 2024 season. When Oklahoma and Texas leave, Colorado's coming back in. Most feel like that they're going to at least bring one more team in, possibly from the Pac-12, the old Pac-12, whatever it is, or some other. And I was listening to it as I was coming in from the airport, and they were talking about, and here's the Pac-12. We'll bring in San Diego State and Gonzaga and others. It's like, okay, you're really at this point just reaching because you don't have a conference anymore. Because if I was Oregon or somewhere else, I'd be saying, Big Ten, you want me? I'm coming. But it's just not there. But folks, this is stuff we get to talk about every week here on the Doug Collins podcast. Friday's Finest is our rambling day. It's our day in which we get to get off what's on our chest, to find out headlines that you may not have heard about or seen. Sometimes we have funny statements from politicians that
like today. Sometimes we just talk about things that are going on in the world, but we're always glad to have you here. Share it, DougCollinsPodcast.com. Hit the share wherever you get your podcast. Hit it, share it, like it, subscribe to it. Hear us every time. Good stuff coming up next week. Michael Waddell, the Bone Collector, will be with us next week. And James, I think we got Tom Homans on next week as well, right?
That's correct.
Yep, got Tom Homans coming back. I'm going to try and get back out with Tim Burchett, see if we can't get Tim after the UFO hearing. By the way, here's the subtle hint about that. We'll talk about it more later. They had a UFO hearing. Somebody actually said that there was non-human biologics actually captured. And again, the mainstream media basically said, who cares?
That's right.
It's the way it goes. But anyway, that's it for Friday's Finest. Glad to have you with us here on the Doug Collins Podcast. Say goodbye, James.
Make sure you get faster cashiers at CVS.
We're out. See you next time on the Doug Collins Podcast.